This is the Snapmaker Artisan Premium. It is an all-in-one 3D printer, laser engraver and CNC machine. Now, the premium version that I've got here not only features a dual extruder hot end, it has a 40-watt laser module and a 200-watt CNC module. In today's video, we're going to be concentrating on the main device itself, its features, and the 3D printing. We're going to look at assembly, we're going to talk about the results that I've had from my 3D print tests, and then in a future video, we're going to concentrate on the laser engraver and CNC. And in fact, in that video, we're going to be making some 5-inch FPV frames from carbon fiber sheet like you see here. Now, just to be crystal clear before we get into it, I do need to say that Snapmaker did send me this Artisan Premium to look at today for free. They have not paid me to make this video. They've not seen this video before it's been published. And as always, my thoughts are entirely my own. The Snapmaker Artisan is an all-in-one 3D printer, CNC and laser engraver. Now, this 3-in-1 device allows you to do a lot more than you would be traditionally able to do on the likes of a 3D printer. It gives you all of those additional capabilities, and what we're going to do today is talk about the 3D printing element specifically, and then in a follow-up video I'm going to be talking about the laser engraver and CNC side of it. When configured as a 3D printer, it is fitted with a dual 0.4mm hot end. This allows for not only dual color printing, but also multi-material printing as well, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later on. This hot end is also linear actuated, which actually allows it to move the non-used nozzle out of the way to prevent dragging or damage on your 3D prints. The Artisan Pro is capable of printing up to 180mm a second. Now, this is slower than some of the newer printers that we've seen on the market, but that is because this printer is fitted with industrial-grade linear actuators for its movements. Rather than it just being your traditional worm screws or belts, this has high-grade linear actuators that allow you to not only use it as a 3D printer, but also as a CNC as well. The Artisan also offers a massive build volume, capable of up to 400 by 400 by 400mm. It features a full dual zone glass bed, which has a PEI covering on one side and a typical glass covering on the other. It is capable of heating up to 110 degrees in the center area, which is 260 by 260, or up to 80 degrees on the full 400 by 400. This bed is held in place with little clips at the front that allow you to flip it up, and it has a large PCB heater located below, offering the dual zone setup. The hot end and the bed are both quick release. You can easily swap over the modules, whether it be the CNC, the 3D print or the laser, simply by lifting a catch at the back, sliding it off and replacing it with the module of choice. The bed also has a quick release latch at the front, which you can simply undo, remove the bed and swap it for either the laser bed or the MDF sheet for the CNC. This printer has all of the usual main functions you would come to expect on a modern printer: auto bed leveling, auto Z adjustment, alongside the auto calibration of the individual hot ends, and there is manual adjustments for these features as well. This printer is also a lot more robust and beefed up compared to what you may find from others. As I've mentioned, it is fitted with industrial grade linear actuators, which are 40mm in size. There is additional aluminium strengthening bracket, as well as a cast base, and this is all done to offer stability when in the CNC mode. This printer is controlled and powered by an external controller. This features a large 7-inch Android-based touchscreen with their own custom OS. On the sides, you will find a USB port. Around the back, all of the connections for the printer, and on the top, you'll even find an emergency stop button to allow you to shut it down just in case something goes wrong. To allow you to get the best from the printer, Snapmaker include their own software called Luben. This is an all-in-one slicer, laser and CNC control software. Now, when using it as a slicer, it is very similar to others that are available on the market. It has all of the usual options you'd find in a slicer, such as the ability to adjust the size, mirror and set supports on the print. You then, on the side, have the options for each extruder with regards to speed, layer height and supports. And then, when you're ready to print, you can wire wirelessly send it directly to the printer from the Luben software. The Snapmaker Artisan does have Wi-Fi built in, and it can connect to your local home network. So when you're ready to actually transfer your print, you can choose to either run it directly from the Luben software or send it to the printer and print directly from on board the main controller. Now, as you can see, this is no small unit. It will take up quite a lot of space on your desk. You need to make sure you have plenty of space around it for not only the unit itself, but for the bed to be able to move to. It's also very heavy with these large linear actuators and this big cast base. When you get it, it comes in two large boxes. The first box contains what you see here, the main device, the main controller and everything. And the second box then contains the extras for the laser engraver, the CNC, as well as the large housing for those devices as well. As you see it here, it is naked in the sense of you don't have it in its external housing, but in the second box for the CNC and laser engraver, it has a very large external housing or casing for it that offers you protection from the laser. And again, that's going to take up some additional space. So you want to make sure that you do have that available. Something to also mention with regards to space and size is the controller. Now, I've currently got it here on the bed, but obviously that's not where it lives. It is something that sits next to the printer. You do have a decent length on the cables, but there's a bit of wiring to this. They do include a cloth piece that sort of bunches it all up to try and keep it all tidy, but you do need to make sure that there is, again, plenty of space on the side, not only for the unit itself, but the controller. With regards to noise, there is a fan that does run in this controller when it's powered on. It's not the loudest in the world, but it isn't the quietest in the world either. You can certainly tell when it's turned on. That's a good thing and a bad thing in the sense of if you're in an environment like I am when you do recording, then you do need to make sure that you've probably turned it off when you're not using it. But if you're in a workshop, it's not going to be an issue. The assembly process on this is fairly straightforward. I'm not going to walk you through everything in this video, but it is a case of unpacking everything, getting each of the components out. You then need to mount the bottom linear rails to the bottom cast piece. You then start mounting the upper rails, the top rail, and you start to build everything up piece by piece. It will take you about an hour in my experience to get it together. It's nothing particularly difficult, but it is a process of following the instructions. They have some great videos on their website that walk you through it. There are quite a lot of screws to put together in this assembly, but don't worry, everything is nicely labeled up. They do include tools with the kit to allow you to assemble it, but I would actually advise you have your own extra toolkit for assembly. It will just make things run a little bit smoother, but you don't need it. They do include everything you need to get going. Once the assembly is complete, you then simply need to follow the on-screen setup process. This will ask you to set up the name, set up the Wi-Fi details, and then it will proceed to update the firmware and perform its initial calibrations. These are done to make sure that the nozzles are in the correct Z alignment, and you will simply need to follow the on-screen prompts, and then it will walk you through the process, making sure that you get everything aligned correctly. Now, as I've mentioned, you have an external controller which is based on Android. What we're going to do next is walk you through the main menu system on this. It has a really nice large 7-inch touchscreen, as I've mentioned. It's really easy to use, and I just want to show you all of the menus and the main controls that the printer has available. As I've said, it's got a really lovely large 7-inch touchscreen, and this is an Android-based operating system, but it does have their own skin and controls over the top. Now, I do still have the screen protection strip on here, so you are going to get a bit of glare on this. I do apologize. I don't want to remove it yet. There's no scratches on my screen or anything like that. It's just on the strip. Now, on the homepage, you have things like control, calibration and settings, and then we have in the center this make something wonderful section. So for instance, if I click on control, this will show us all of the main controls for the printer. So we have things such as move, so we can move the axes. We have the filament controls, so we can set the left and the right nozzle. We can heat it up. We can then load and unload our filaments. And then we've got the options for the heated bed below, whole bed, or just the inner zone, depending on what you want to do. As I mentioned, you do have a dual temperature zone on this, so it will be 110 degrees in the center or up to 80 degrees in the whole bed area. If we then Go down to the calibration screen. This allows us to calibrate the printer. So we've got the heated bed level, the Z offset calibration, as well as XY offset calibration. There is a full set of calibrations that you actually need to do with this printer when you first get it. It does take a little bit of time, but it does get it set up perfectly. And because it does have those dual actuated hot ends, you do need to make sure that you do get the Z calibration correct. Then down into settings, and this gives us all of the main options for the printer. So we've got our Wi-Fi settings, our language, our firmware update options. There is a new firmware update available for my printer. You've got the module assistant, which again tells you the firmware situation on the modules, where it allows you to do things like replace the hot end, replace the module. You've then got the about machine option, and then at the bottom, the remote connection options, allowing you to control it from the Luben software. Finally, on the home screen, we have this area that says make something wonderful. If you tap into that, this will take you to your last prints that you've performed on the printer that are stored on the controller. Now, as I've mentioned, I was sent the premium kit, which includes the 40-watt laser, the 200-watt CNC, and the dual extruder print module. Now, I've demonstrated the print module a little bit, but there are some things I want to show you on this that I haven't touched on yet, and we'll do that in a minute. If we take a look at the laser module, I'm not going to be demonstrating this today, but I am just going to give you an overview of the module itself. This is the higher power 40-watt module. This one has a built-in depth gauge on the front. You have a glass piece there to protect your eyes from the laser, although you shouldn't rely on that. That is not the only protection you should use. On the top, we then have our connection input. This is exactly the same on all of the three modules. We've then got an ear input, which we will talk about in the next video. On the side, we've got our label giving us our specifications. And then on the back, we've got our quick release connector, which goes onto the modules. Moving over to the CNC module, this is the 200-watt one. Again, we've got our connector on the top. There's not really a lot to show you here. We've got our output shaft. The chuck and everything for this is currently in the box. I haven't opened it yet. Again, we'll be taking a look at this closer in the next video. And really, all you've got on this is our quick release connector on the back. And finally, jumping over to our 3DP module. Now, externally, there's not that much to show you. We've got our cable connector, our dual filament inputs, there's vents on either side, and our quick release connector on the back. Now, this does have an openable aluminium door, which is held closed with some nice magnets. And inside here, you can see our dual extruders. As I showed earlier, they will actually move themselves out of the way to stop them dragging on your prints. They also, though, have some nice quality of life features. So, for instance, there is quick release hot ends. You can swap these out simply by squeezing and pulling, and you can pull out the whole hot end module. So if you wanted to swap this out for a 0.2, 0.6, 0.8, you can do easily. If you look on the back, you've got a little PCB with some pads there. That goes to some connectors on another board down there. We've got our heater and our temperature sensor down the bottom there. So if you had a jam or if you had something that you wanted to swap, it really is very easy. And then to pop it back in, you just drop it in and lock it in place. And if you want to take that one out, it's just the same process. Give it a squeeze, pop it out, and it really is that quick and easy. Now, there is also nice, easy access to the extruder drive as well. So if you were to get a jam in here, don't worry, you don't have to tear the whole thing down. You can actually just squeeze here and open that up. And if I just tilt it up, you can see in there the extruder drive. So you can get into that part there if you did have a jam. You can see down in there the filament guide. So again, you don't have to worry too much if you do get a jam. You don't have to tear the whole thing apart. You can nice and easily go in. Again, it's the same on this side here for the right. So again, you can get in there and get access if you were to have a problem. Over the last few weeks, I've been doing a bunch of testing on this printer, not only trying your typical filaments, but also multi-material printing with things such as PETG and TPU. Now, here is just a small selection of some of the prints that I've done. And the reason I've sort of selected these is they all showcase something on the printer, which I think is good. What I'm going to say is I've really had no bad experiences on this printer so far, no major problems. About the only thing I did have, if I did have an issue trying to print a benchy in midair, and I was trying to do something a little bit silly with some support filament, and I just couldn't get it to work, but I can't blame the printer for that. It was more me trying to push things to the absolute limit. Now, There's a selection of things here which I'm going to work through quickly. So, starting off, a typical benchy. I have to say, I think this has come out very nice, very clean, no issues whatsoever. In fact, it's one of the cleaner benchies that I've seen on any printer. Don't get me wrong, it's not fast, so it did take quite a long time to print. It's quite hard to show you here under this lighting. I'll come in a bit closer. If I show you around the bow, just trying to get the light to shine off it, it is absolutely fantastic. Bottom layer looks very tidy. Just the odd little thing just down by there. Can't read on the back, but it was printed at 0.2 millimeters. This is a really hard color to show you under the light. This is the color that they sent with it. It's the PLA that they included, so I thought I'd use it as a demonstration. Then we have our test clearance print. This just gives us an idea of what the clearances are like. See a tiny wisp of string in there. If we take a look down, so 0.35 is fine, 0.30 is fine, 0.25 is fine, 0.20 is fine, although I can feel it starting to bind. 0.15 is locked. So 0.15, no movement at all. 0.10, the same. So down to 0.15 on the clearances. Next, moving over to the Matter Hackers Spaceman. This is one of my favorite test prints. I've just removed the raft off the bottom. I used it just to make sure that it stuck to the bed because you do have the grips. I have to say I scaled this up and it does look very nice. Very few complaints. A little bit of roughness on the overhangs under there and a little bit over there and a tiny bit along the back there. But everything else looks really clean, really tidy. I think it come out really, really well. Very little you can complain about on this. There are people that will complain about things like this, but these are sort of torture test prints and they give you a good indication of the quality of the printer. Top layer looks okay there. If I just come back to the benchy a minute, just to show you the top layer on that, I didn't actually do that. You can see how clean the top layer came out on that benchy as well. The overhangs, really hard to show you this under this light. Their choice of filament, not mine. Top layer, pretty good. Feels okay. Again, it just gives you an indication of what the printer can do. Now, the next two prints are quite interesting because one of these is a multicolor. So this is a multicolor chip that I printed just to give you an idea with white and red, just to give you an indication of how nicely it can come out. I just printed this straight from red and white PLA. Top layer is a little bit rough, but it's not the worst I've seen. Certainly on the bottom layer looks good. Tiny gap evident there. Again, a little bit of tweaking may improve that, but overall pretty good. It's got a little bit of cog in. It's not quite 100% round where it's obviously mixing the filaments, but I think it's come out overall pretty good. This one was something that I designed as a test print, and this one is particularly interesting because this is a combination between TPU and PETG. So we have PETG on the bottom here, solid plastic, and I printed this as a foot. And then we have here TPU. So this top is actually flexible. So we were able to multi-material print the PETG hardened base with a flexible top TPU piece. And it has come out really, really well. If I was doing something like this again, I'd probably change the design a little bit because it's quite soft in the middle here where I kept the infill minimum. But obviously on the sides here, especially in the middle where it's building the inner wall up, it's really quite hard. So you lose the softness. But it does just show what you can do with this printer. With things like multi-materials, you can mix TPUs and other materials to get this quite nice effect. Now, the last thing I just want to show you is this, and you might be wondering, well, what is this? It's just looking like a goalpost. And actually, what this was, and I'll put some B-roll up on screen, was a test of printing with support material. Now, this was printed with support material all along the middle, all there to hold the bridging up. And I just wanted to show you just how well this came out. You can see a little piece of the support material left there. You'll see on the screen where I show the print that it was basically supported up in the middle. And again, just shows you the result of having that support material in the middle. It's left it really clean. And again, it's just an advantage of having that dual extruder. Yes, you can do this on something with an AMS, but I just wanted to demonstrate the kind of thing that you can do with it. So you could print a very long straight piece if you wanted to, and then use support material to actually hold it up. Now, none of these prints were really designed to be anything particularly adventurous, but more than anything, they're a set of test prints that give me an indication of how well the printer works. And I have to say, whilst it's slow, from a quality point of view, I have no complaints whatsoever. Now, before I share with you my thoughts, we should talk about price. Now, the Snapmaker Artisan 3-in-1 is not the cheapest 3D printer on the market, but it's not just a 3D printer. It is an all-in-one device. Now, the kit that you've seen here is the Artisan 3-in-1 Premium kit. That is the kit that comes with the 40-watt laser and the 200-watt CNC, and that is available for $2,999. That is currently on offer with $500 off compared to the official retail price. There is a standard version available as well, which is $2,599, and then you've got the printer alone available for $1,599. There are also upgrades available for it. You have a rotary module for $453. We have a purifier laser infrared module available as well. So again, there's lots of other options too. And you've even got things like CNC bits, different hot ends. All of that is available should you wish to purchase it. Now, if you are interested in getting one, there will be a link to it in the description. It will be an affiliate link, but if you don't want to use the affiliate link, please do consider checking out their website. You can go there directly, no issues at all. Okay, so to share with you my thoughts on the Snapmaker Artisan. Now, as I've said, we're going to cover the CNC and the laser in a future video. We're going to concentrate here on the main device and the 3D printer. With regards to the unit itself, it's big, it's solid, you're going to need plenty of space. I love the quality of the device itself, no complaints there whatsoever. I really like the improvements that they've made to how easy it is to swap over the modules. I think it's going to be a lot easier to use as a dual or three-purpose device compared to the previous one. With regards to the 3D printing side, I actually have very few complaints. It is not fast. If you need a fast printer, this is not the one for you. But what it does do is a good job on the print quality. I like the dual extruder. I used to have an old Flashforge dual extruder, which was a nightmare to use. I like what they've done with the actuators on this, which allow you to move the heads out the way. It does a good job on printing multicolor, but also multi-material as well. As I showed earlier, I have that PETG and TPU print, which allows you to do things like have soft parts and hard parts on the same model. And it's really interesting the things that you can start to do with a device like this. Really, from a 3D printing perspective, I've got no major complaints as long as you accept the fact that it is not fast. With regards to the fit, finish and feel on this printer, it is superb. Everything is predominantly metal. There is very little plastic to be found. You have your cast aluminium base, your extruded aluminium actuators and your main unit. All of this is anodized aluminium. It has a real nice feel to it, very Apple-like. About the only places that I found plastic on this is on the clips that hold the bed down at the front, as well as some of the wiring holders. Even the filament holders on this printer are solid metal. It has a real beefy, solid feel to it. Yes, that's going to come with some weight, but it is on another level compared to most of the other 3D printers out there on the market. With regards to using the printer, sending the stuff over from Luben, from a 3D printing point of view, it's fairly straightforward. But my only complaint on Luben is you've got to connect to it to send a print to it wirelessly, and then you have to disconnect before you can print. I would love a way of being able to send stuff to the printer without having this connection and disconnection nonsense. I do like, though, the main color touchscreen and the UI and the user experience. It's really nice. Very intuitive. Again, no complaints at all. One of the best UIs that I've seen on any 3D printer out there. Overall, as the device is here today, I think it's very good. It's certainly not the cheapest device in the world, but you're getting something here that does a lot more than just a 3D printer alone. It is compromised as a 3D printer with regards to speed, but it isn't compromised in quality, and it does have some nice features with the dual extruder. So if you're after something that does give you that dual extruder capability, but you want to maybe be able to upgrade, do some laser engraving, do some CNC, it is absolutely worth a look. As a device, it is very unique. It is very different to the others out there. And I think when you've got to look at a device like this, you have to understand that you're paying for something here that offers a lot more than just a 3D printer. And whilst you're paying a lot more for it, you have capabilities that those other devices simply can't do. Now, that is it on this one. We're going to be following up with a second video in the near future. If you're interested in seeing it, please do make sure you are subscribed. I'm really interested in knowing what you think, so please don't forget to put your comments below. If you have any questions, put them below as well, and I will try and answer them. I want to say a big thank you to Snapmaker for sending it over. If you're interested in getting one, there will be a link to it in the description. That is an affiliate link. If you use it, I may receive a commission, but you don't have to. You can go straight to their website if you want to. Anyway, that's it from me on this one. Look after yourselves, stay safe. I will speak to you soon.